Deep in the Caledonian highlands, in the last months of AD 82, sentries at a Roman marching camp keep watch by starlight. Somewhere beyond the earthwork rampart and its palisade of sharpened stakes, tribesmen are already moving. Tacitus records what happens next in one line: the Caledonians cut down the sentries and broke into the camp before dawn. Legio IX, veterans of Gaul and Hispania, comes within one desperate cavalry charge of annihilation. They survive that night. 25 years later, they vanish from the historical record completely, and no ancient author ever says why. The ninth story starts in confusion, which is fitting for a legion whose ending is just as unclear. Its origins are pre-imperial and disputed, possibly present at the siege of Asculum in 90 BC. By 58 BC it belongs to Julius Caesar, newly appointed governor of Cisalpine Gaul. Caesar takes the legion north into Gaul itself, into a decade of campaigning against tribes who had never faced a force organized quite like this one. Under Caesar IX becomes a veteran unit, hardened long before it ever sees Britain. It fights through the Gallic Wars, then follows Caesar into civil war, standing at Dyrrhachium and at Pharsalus in 48 BC where Pompey's army is broken. 2 years later it marches again in the African campaign. By the time Caesar is dead, the ninth has already outlived 3 separate wars on 2 continents. Peace does not last. Between 25 and 19 BC, under the new Emperor Augustus, the legion is sent into northern Spain to break the Cantabri, a mountain people who resist Rome longer than almost anyone else in the Western Empire. The campaign gives the legion the name history remembers it by I Hispana of Hispania, a title earned in the Cantabrian mountains. In AD 9, 3 legions are annihilated in the Teutoburg forest. The worst defeat Rome suffers north of the Alps, and it reshapes where every remaining legion on the frontier is stationed. The ninth is moved east to Pannonia, along the Danube, to hold a border suddenly stripped of confidence. For 3 decades it garrisons that river line, waiting for the next order to move. That order comes in AD 43. Emperor Claudius commits 4 legions, the 2nd, the 9th, the 14th, and the 20th, roughly 20,000 legionaries with a comparable number of auxiliary troops, to the conquest of Britain. Under Aulus Plautius they load onto a fleet of broad, oak-hulled transport ships at Boulogne, vessels built for capacity across open water, not for naval combat. They cross the Channel and land at Richborough, on the coast of Kent, the first Roman boots on British soil in nearly a century. The Catuvellauni are defeated in the field within months. The legions push toward Camulodunum, the tribal stronghold the Romans know as Colchester, an Iron Age settlement of timber roundhouses about to be replaced by a Roman street grid and a temple to the emperor. Claudius himself crosses from Rome to be present for the final capture of the tribal capital. For the rest of the decade the ninth pushes the frontier north and west. Around AD 50, alongside the 20th Legion, it defeats the resistance leader Caratacus and secures the region enough to build permanently. On a hilltop above the river Witham the legion raises the fortress of Lindum, timber and turf ramparts enclosing barracks, granaries, and a headquarters built to hold for years, not months. Rome's grip on Britain depends on client kingdoms staying loyal, and not all of them do. Between AD 52 and 57, under its legate Caesius Nasica, the ninth marches to suppress the first revolt of Venutius, a rebellious king of the Brigantes in the north, buying the province another decade of uneasy peace. That peace ends in AD 60 or 61. When Boudicca leads the Icenian Trinovantes in revolt, burning Camulodunum's undefended Colonia to the ground, a detachment of the 9th, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 men under Quintus Petilius Cerialis, marches south from the East Midlands to relieve the siege. Boudicca's forces ambush the column before it arrives. Tacitus records the infantry effectively destroyed. Only the cavalry, roughly 500 riders, cuts its way out. No ancient source gives an exact body count. The 9th has just suffered the worst day in its documented history, and it is still not the end of the legion. Rome does not disband a legion for one bad day. New legionaries transfer in from the German provinces to bring the 9th back to fighting strength. In AD 71, Cerialis, the same officer who survived the ambush a decade earlier, returns to Britain as governor, and leads renewed campaigns against the Brigantes with the reconstituted legion under his command. Around AD 71 the legion begins building its permanent home at Eboracum, the fortress that will become York. 50 acres laid out in the standard playing card shape, rounded corners, barrack blocks for thousands of men arranged along the Via Praetoria and Via Principalis. The first version is timber and turf, green wood raised fast on the frontier. Decades later, in AD 107 or 108, the 9th rebuilds it in stone, squared blocks tied together with courses of red ceramic tile. A building tablet commemorating that work is the last inscription that places the legion in Britain with any certainty. Before the stone rebuilding, the 9th had already marched further north than any Roman force before it. Under Governor Agricola in AD 82 and 83, it pushes into Caledonia, fighting from temporary camps like the one nearly overrun in the night attack that opened this film. The campaign culminates in AD 83 at the Battle of Mons Graupius, where Agricola's combined force defeats a large Caledonian coalition in open battle, the deepest and most complete Roman victory Britain will ever see. Then, after the AD 107 to 108 inscription, the trail runs cold. Tile stamps reading Legio IX Hispana, along with a silver-plated bronze pendant, turn up at Nijmegen in the Netherlands, suggesting part of the legion later served on the Rhine frontier, in Germania Inferior. But scholars dispute the dating fiercely, some placing it as early as the 80s AD, others after 108. By around AD 120, a different legion, the 30th Ulpia Victrix, occupies that same base. By AD 197, when Cassius Dio lists every legion in the Roman army, the 9th is not on it. No ancient author records what happened, so historians argue instead. One theory holds the legion was destroyed fighting in Britain under Hadrian, the same reasoning that once linked Hadrian's wall directly to their loss, though that causal link is a 19th century inference, not an ancient claim. Another theory places its end during the brutal Bar Kokhba revolt in Judea in the AD 130s, on a scale that could rival the Teutoburg disaster. A third simply argues the legion was quietly split, reassigned, and absorbed, never destroyed at all, just dissolved on paper. The 9th did not vanish as a single lost eagle hunted through hostile country, whatever novels and films later imagined. That story borrows a real bronze eagle statue found at Silchester in the 1860s, now in Reading Museum, but its link to this specific legion was never established. In their own time, nothing marked the 9th as special. Their fame is entirely modern, built from one plain fact: after AD 108, they simply stop appearing.